Hello, Dave. I really appreciate you coming on. I've seen a countless number of your wins in the crypto wins channel, multiple high percentage wins. So really glad you could join me here for an interview to discuss those. But before we do go on to, I would like to go into your past. So first, hello, how are you?
I'm excellent. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you on. Now, what was your life like before joining the real world?
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited to talk about this. I've got a really great story that comes from darkness to triumph. So yeah, I'm really excited to share that with you today. It's a fairly long-winded story. I hope that's okay. But I'm
That's
one of
completely
the I'm
fine.
one of the older guys, so I've got a longer past. So I come from a very loving middle class family. Always had an excellent relationship with my parents. And that being said, I always knew from a very young age I wanted more out of my life than just to work for somebody else, make somebody else rich for a paycheck. Unfortunately, during my later teens, early 20s, that led me down a very dark path, which led to me actually dealing hard drugs and even doing some time in prison. When I was spending 18 months waiting for my final trial for the charges that I was being brought up on, we found out that my mother had been diagnosed with a very serious cancer. And unfortunately, that meant that I had to really make a decision on what I was going to do. So I ended up taking a plea deal for 6 months in jail instead of the 2 years that they wanted, to make sure I could get out and spend as much time with her as possible. Even though I was able to get out and spend a bit of time with her, my poor choices and lack of direction cost me a big chunk of the last year of her life. And it was pretty tough for a young guy losing his mother in jail. I wasn't in jail at the time, but I was on a very dark path where I very could have easily ended up dead or in jail, or something along those lines. But what other choice did I have other than to continue to thrive and survive and move on with my life? So I met a great girl coming out of jail, and we moved away after my mother had passed away to kind of start a new life. I took a decent paying job where I could move away and kind of get my life on track. I worked there for a good number of years, 3 or 4 years. And unfortunately, I did end up losing that position due to downsizing. And at that point, I felt our lives were in a good enough place where we could move back to the hometown where we really wanted to be, start a family, kind of settle down, which, my life was finally on a positive path. So it felt like the right thing to do. So that's what we did. And I ended up working a number of jobs, none of which I really liked. They were just, put food on the table, pay the bills. We started to have some kids. So, that gets pretty expensive as well. And as time went on, I knew I needed to get back to working on myself and to get out of the job lifestyle, as I've always wanted to. That's when I found Andrew Tate. It's like his teachings came into my life the exact moment I needed it the most. I now have 3 beautiful kids, work for myself at a great freelancing job that I make my own schedule for. I freelance bookkeeping. I invest heavily in crypto, which is the campus I'm most associated with in the real world, with Professor Adam, who gave me an excellent opportunity to become an apprentice there. And it'll pay off big time in the long run. I do believe crypto to be the future. So it's really a story of a young guy really down and out in a really dark place in his life, pushing through and overcoming. And I'm nowhere near finished. I'm not getting comfortable. There's a lot of work to do. I've got big plans, big goals. And I just, it's a great summarization of when you believe in yourself and never give up, you can really achieve anything. Of course, it doesn't hurt when you have someone to look up to.
Right. Great answer. Actually, a lot to dive into there.
Yeah.
First, for reference, how old are you?
I'm 33. I'll be 30, or sorry, I will be 33 in February. I'm 32 right now.
Okay.
So I'm one of the older guys.
What about Andrew Tate made you want to listen to him? What do
Well,
you
I
think?
mean, the lifestyle, of course, he's got the Bugatti, it's a lavish lifestyle that everybody kind of wants, in my opinion. But more so than that, it's the way he talks and the way he inspires, the way he calls, people brokies. I'm still a brokey. I'm nowhere near escaping brokey status, but I'm happily working on it. And I mean, any young guys out there, Andrew Tate is the best possible role model you could have coming up for becoming a man.
And what specifically made you want to join the real world?
Well, at first, I was scrolling TikTok like a mindless AI, like a lot of people do, and his videos kept popping up, and I always really liked what he had to say and the way he presented himself. He's a very articulate man. I was a little skeptical of the real world at first, like I'm sure many people were, but just like the man himself says, if you're not going to listen to a multimillionaire who's trying to help people make money, who are you going to listen to?
Mhm.
So at that point, I think it was May 2022. That's when I first joined, and from there, it's been amazing. It truly is the best and most advanced educational institution on the planet.
And again, something we'll get into. So, what made you decide to choose crypto out of everything else you could have chosen?
Yeah, great question. Because as we all know, crypto does not produce an income. It's for wealth multiplication. And the reason I chose crypto as my main focus at the time was because I had a relatively large savings account. Large for me, not large for a millionaire or anything. But I wanted to make sure that the money I did have started to work for itself. And I've always been really interested in crypto because I do believe it's going to play a large part in the future of finance because of what they're trying to accomplish, which is to basically bypass these big banks and their fractional reserve banking. And we won't get into that, but it's basically I wanted to make my money work for itself and be able to have a real part in that, and to be able to do that without traditional means, I would say.
Mhm.
So crypto's has always been a passion for me, something that I really wanted to get into. And when I was, I first got into crypto at the beginning, almost at the top of the last real bull market. So not a good time. And of course, I held a bag of shit coins all the way to mostly the bottom. And yeah, that's about the time I was joining the real world. And I knew I needed to learn from professionals, because everything you do in life should be learned from professionals. You should be associating with people who do it better than you. And that's what I wanted to do.
What would you say stands out in the real world about the courses, the material you learn? How different is it from the knowledge outside of it on
Yeah,
the
that's a
internet?
great question. And there's something I wanted to touch on first here for anybody out there listening. It may not be common knowledge, but these professors are not teachers by trade. They are real multimillionaires, self-made, who have accomplished amazing things in their respective fields. So for them to make the transition to teaching, to try to inspire and empower the next generation of men, is amazing. And they do an outstanding job at putting these courses together and making them easy to digest for beginners all the way up to intermediate advanced, depending on what your skill level is and your course you're going after. They really do an incredible job of making it beginner friendly, as long as you're willing to put in the work out there.
Mhm. And speaking of willing to put in the work, how many hours per day would you say you've been putting into the crypto campus?
Yeah,
And has that
so
evolved over time?
it's definitely evolved over time. When I first joined, obviously my goal was learning. So what I was doing was going through lesson by lesson, video by video, taking notes, making sure I digested and fully understood everything that was being taught. So I was putting in, I would say, 2 to 4 hours a day learning. It took a few weeks to get through all of it. I got through it all, obviously, and all the way up to Professor Adams' masterclass, which I'm still a very active member in. And it's been amazing. As long as, like I said, as long as you're willing to put in the work like I did, sit down, really focus, and get through the material, there's really no limit to what you can do. But to answer your original question, about 2 to 4 hours a day when I started, then I was given the opportunity to become an apprentice and take on more leadership role in the crypto campus. And I still put in, to this day, 2 to 4 hours in the chats, trying to help and guide people to where they need to be, make sure they know that they have to put in the work, and yeah, really try to hammer that message home.
What do you think helped you become an apprentice? What aspects?
So to become an apprentice, there's no real hard and fast guidelines. There's no real process out there that you need to follow. But in my experience, you just don't want to spend too much time in the chats to start out with, unless you have some really good questions to ask the professors or the more experienced members. Just sit down, learn, get through the material, learn where everything is, learn everything that they're trying to teach. And from there, you can go on and start helping people, providing value to these millionaire professors who so deserve value being provided to them. So really learning where everything is, being a guide for the newer members, always trying to inspire and guide them to the material and on the proper path, and really just providing value to these excellent professors that they have inside the campuses.
And since you mentioned questions, I'd like to add, everyone is incentivized to ask smart questions. They are told how to structure the question, and it's made sure that you're not wasting people's time when asking, and it's insightful to the other members in the community as well. And as an apprentice, I'm sure you've seen that as well. And you favor answering well-structured questions from those students as well, correct?
Absolutely. That is a big part of what I did want to touch on as well about being an apprentice and being in a leadership role. You have to know that people's time is valuable, not just mine. I'm just an apprentice. The professor's time is incredibly valuable. And when we get some people asking these questions that they have put almost no thought into, it's almost embarrassing that the professors and us have to answer these kind of questions. So the quality of the questions you ask do equal the quality of the answers you'll receive. So put some thought in, really make sure your question is, one, easily answerable, and two, has enough information that the person answering the question doesn't need to go fishing for more details to know exactly what you're looking for. And we do get a lot of really horrible questions, of course, but there are a few, the gems of the really good students who ask the really good questions that I just love to answer and help guide them on their way. I've saved a few people from quitting, giving up. They thought it was too hard, but they showed promise. So I helped and guided them and talked to them personally. And I don't mind giving up my time to guide somebody who really shows promise. And a lot of the other guys are the same way.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about the community in the real world?
Oh, the community is amazing. I've made so many good friends among the leadership group, especially of the crypto campus. These guys are awesome. They're very inclusive. As long as, like I said, again, we're going to hammer this message home. You have to be willing to put in the work, guys, because if you want everything handed to you on a silver platter, you're not going to make it far. We're a very elite group of men, I would say, trying to be. We're on our way there. And when you're trying to ask us questions that just don't fit, you're not going to get a good answer. And I think that's fair. And I think people realize that. But to more answer your question, the community is very inclusive. We're always willing to bring new people in, help them, and make sure that everyone is on the right path to success that I'm currently on.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere near successful yet, but we're getting there, and we'll get there eventually.
What do you see for the future then for yourself now that you're on this path?
So the future for myself, that's a great question. I'm enjoying my bookkeeping freelancing job. Bookkeeping isn't something that I'm very passionate about, but as Tate says himself, you don't really need to follow your passion. It's what brings in the money. and I get paid fairly well. And I might expand that, take on more clients. I might even hire a few more bookkeepers to help the workload, start a business out of it rather than just myself doing all the work. I would love to go down that route. I also would like to dive a little bit deeper into Amazon FBA. I haven't had the time yet, but in the new year, it's something I want to look into more heavily. I think Amazon, being the huge super giant that it is and already having the massive customer base that they do, in my head, it makes sense to sell products on Amazon. So yeah, in the new year, I'd really love to dive deep into Amazon FBA and try to get a good store up and running and scale that as high as it can go. And of course, keep investing in crypto. Crypto's the future. We're deep in a bear market though, so now's the time to focus on cash flow and stack your crypto bags, guys, because I might not ever get a chance again to buy this low.
Great. With Amazon FBA, yeah, I've heard a lot of positive reviews as well from people who are doing it, learning it in the real world. So all the best with that. And I didn't know about your freelancing side project. So did being in the real world help you with getting that freelancing job?
It did, absolutely. I'm not a very active member in the freelancing campus, but joining the real world and being around these guys who have goals and are putting all this effort into all their businesses. I didn't have the freelancing gig before I joined the real world. So just being in the real world and associating with the leadership group, the higher level members, really did push me to reach out and network with some of the businesses in my area and pull in these bookkeeping clients that I now have that mostly pay my bills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned from the real world? And
The
if you
biggest
can't
lesson.
think of one single one, feel free to give me a few.
Okay, well, I really do want to mention the lesson of, I'm going to say this so many times today, putting in the work, because of course, as everybody else does, and I was lazy with certain things, procrastination, laziness, haram. You can't be procrastinating. Tomorrow is not the time to start. It's today. It's this minute. It's this hour. Get on it. Get it done. I procrastinate far less. I'm far less lazy. I work hard. I'm proud of myself. I'm in better shape. I eat better. Overall, how could you not consider that a massive, massive W?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the biggest lesson. Don't procrastinate, get to work, do it today, not tomorrow.
And from when you joined the real world, how long did it take for you to make your first piece of income, considering how much time you were putting in per day?
My first piece of income. So I joined at a really great time in the crypto campus where we were right at the bottom of that bear market, macro bottom. So following the advice of Professor Adam, I stacked my bags right near the bottom and rode them up to a nice 20% gain, which was, that's a nice chunk of money I made within my first month and a half or so. So yeah, it was a 20% gain on the portfolio, which was a really nice chunk of money very early on. And the freelancing gig, I got that rolling within about 2.5 months. And now that, like I said, that pays my bills. I don't work a job anymore. I work for myself. It's not like I'm bringing in any crazy kind of money, but the fact that I can work from home on my own schedule, I stay at home with my 3 kids. Life just doesn't get much better when you actually dedicate yourself. And, of course, like I said, there's a long ways to go, but yeah, it wasn't long. It didn't take long. Everybody in the real world's making money who is doing the work.
Yep. And that's why I'm here as well, to have their stories.
Yep, exactly.
So you mentioned physical exercise, and it's something Tate talks about as well. He mentions the importance of it. So I'd like your opinion on how do you view physical exercise and why do it?
Well, so I'm not like a real gym guy, quote unquote. I don't really like the gym. But that being said, I still may go get a gym pass this coming year and really get into weightlifting. But even just going for a walk a day, get your steps in, wake up early, get a nice walk in, drink your coffee, do some push-ups. I try to do 100 push-ups a day minimum. Just keep the arms fresh, keep the muscles moving. Physical activity is extremely important, and you don't need to be a gym guy to achieve that. Healthy body, healthy mind is very true. You feel much better when you exercise.
And your productivity increases as well.
Absolutely, it does. Productivity goes through the roof when you get your physical activity in the morning, especially for me. Yeah. Do the push-ups, go on a walk, drink your coffee, get to work.
Not sure if we touched on this. How much of an impact did the people you made friends with from the real world, maybe from the wins channels, how much of an impact did all of those things have on you?
Oh, massive impact. You meet people and network with people who have similar goals to you, who have similar expectations of themselves, and they help you become your best or a better version of yourself. Because, as a lot of people do, my real life friends, and not to put any bad names on them, but they're just not on the same path. And that doesn't mean you can't be friends with them. But the point of the real world is to meet people who have similar goals and to really hammer those goals into yourself and make sure that you don't give up on them. You don't stop believing in yourself. You're confident in yourself and in your goals, and you put a plan in place to achieve them. So it's extremely important to speak and to make friends with like-minded individuals on a similar path.
Mm-hmm. I don't have much else to add. Is there any ending note you'd like to end on?
Well, if anybody out there is watching this and you're thinking, well, I would love to make some extra money, but I don't really know about the real world, and I'm not sure if I really want to join or need to join. Let me tell you, you need to join. If you want to escape the 9 to 5, if you want to be in charge of your own future and your own destiny, there is no better place to be than the real world. Absolutely no better place to be. And again, if you're interested in crypto, if you have a big savings account, we have amazing crypto professors, Professor Adam, Professor Michael, Professor Sillard. And the one I'm going to give particular shout out to is obviously Professor Adam. He's the one who gave me the opportunity to be an apprentice. And I still to this day put a lot of work into his masterclass of swing trading, and no better place to be, guys. I'll end with that.
Great. And even if you don't have money to start with, there's
Oh,
several things you can
absolutely. Yes, I
well.
should touch on that. If you don't have money, that's totally fine. There's copywriting, there's freelancing. You don't need money to start any of those. All you need is work ethic and time to do the work. And if all you have is a little bit of money, ecom, Amazon FBA. Come on, guys. No excuses left to get in here.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much, Dave. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you for everything. And yeah, wish you all the best.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.